Collin Sexton, I think the narrative with him throughout his career has been like this empty stats guy. He doesn't contribute to winning. He's a ball hog. He's terrible shot selection, isn't a very portable player, yada, yada, yada. There's all these different things that have been said about Collin Sexton in a negative presentation. And I would say a lot of the complaints that people have had about Collin Sexton historically throughout his career so far, I don't know if those are fair criticisms anymore. I won't even say that I don't know if those are fair criticisms. I'll go ahead and say they're not fair criticisms. Collin Sexton has come a very long way from the kind of quote unquote one-dimensional player that he used to be, to now being a very team-oriented player, fitting in his role. In the wise words of LeBron James, quit trying to fit out and just fit in. Collin Sexton is fitting in, and he's doing it at a very, very solid level. Some numbers that I think really lend to this idea that he's contributing in more of a team context and not just looking out for his own numbers. If you look at assisted percentage, which is basically of your shots that you're making, how many of those shots are coming off of an assist from your teammate? Collin Sexton, in his rookie season, he had an assisted percentage of 39%. So 39% of his made shots were assisted. And that was in the 54th percentile, whatever. During his last full season in Cleveland, where he played 60 games, in 2022, he only played 11 games, so I'm not going to include that. But in 2021, his last season in Cleveland, his assisted percentage was 47%. So 47% of his made shots were assisted. Currently this year, on the season so far, 58% of his makes are assisted, which is up from 41% last year. So even last year, you can look at it and be like, yeah, he was, kind of more self-oriented, looking for his own shot. But this year, it's like very much, no, you're a team player. 58, almost 60% of all of his shots are assisted, or made shots rather. Another thing is Collin Sexton has always kind of been viewed as this high volume 3-point shooter, which is true. And it's not like he was always necessarily bad at it. He's generally been a good 3-point shooter throughout his career. But one thing about him is that generally his 3-point volume, particularly the shots that he's making, a lot of them were self-created. They weren't kind of off-ball made threes. They were give me the ball and I will create a three. His last full season in Cleveland, 68% of his made threes, or 68% of his made threes were assisted. This year, currently, 95% of his made threes are assisted. Only 5% of his 3-pointers that he's making are coming self-created. And I think that just really speaks to the role that he's accepted in Cleveland, where he's now gone from like this guy trying to prove that he can be a number 1 option or a number 2 option to now just being like, yeah, I'm a supporting player and I'm going to do that to the best of my ability. And I think the idea and the narrative that he is an empty stats, empty calorie, whatever you want to say, I think that narrative is dead. And, there are situations where I think a team could look at Collin Sexton and be like, we should trade for Collin Sexton if we can get him for the right price.
Man, where do you think I have Collin Sexton? Do you think he's on my list?
If I had to guess, if I were a betting man, I would say he is on your list.
Man, you should get into the prop game, man. You should start some DraftKings stuff. Maybe they'd sponsor us. Who knows? Yeah, I have him at number 8. So I'm a little bit higher on my guy Sexton than you, but I basically agree with everything you said. Like the thing you mentioned, the assisted 3-point percentage, the assisted field goal percentage, all that stuff. That's huge because that means like this Jazz team is not good, right? But if Sexton were to get traded, you can trust that he can fit in offensively next to higher level talent, that he can avoid eating away at their touches. A couple other Sexton stats that really jumped out to me. One thing, he's still shooting about 60% true shooting, which is like 2 points above league average. Pretty good. I think it's in the 61st percentile league wide, according to what I'm looking at. He's having a bad year from three. He's only like a 34% 3-point shooter, and usually he's like a 38% 3-point shooter. So the fact that he can still be efficient without shooting well from three just is a testament to his rim pressure, his ability to generate free throws, which is like kind of a hard thing to get from this archetype because a lot of these guys are not super physically gifted. They rely a lot on handle, on craft, tough shot making. So I really like that from him. Two other things that really jumped out to me. One, the Utah Jazz are 20th in offensive rating overall. But when Sexton's on the floor, they're in the 57th percentile in offensive rating, which is more like 12th in offensive rating, 13th in offensive rating. So he's boosting a pretty bad offense and making them above average with his presence on the court. And then the other cool thing, we said defense is not that important, but it's important to us that you're able to at least stay on the floor. He's in the 63rd percentile in deflections per 36 right now, which is, I think, in the top 3 or 4 out of guys in this group. So that's pretty good. Shows that he's active on defense, that he's a willing participant. He hustles, even though he's smaller, and he is prone to breakdowns with rotations and all that stuff. I like him. I like me some Sexton, man. Give me all the Sexton stock you're selling. Anybody out there, I love him.
Yeah,
love him.
The more I talk about Collin Sexton, and I've actually somehow ended up talking about Collin Sexton a lot over the past 6 months, just on random podcasts and random discussions. But like, I feel like he's going to end up being a player that he's not going to be like I don't even know if he'll be a starter. I don't know. He's not going to be like a third or even like a fourth option on a team. Maybe he will off the bench, but like, it's been said about him for a long time that his best role is going to be a sixth man. And I feel like at some point in his career, like somebody's going to get him and they're going to be like, dang, we're so glad that we have this player on our team. Like, wow, we have Collin Sexton on like a $10 million a year contract for the next 3-4 years. Like, wow, we are so lucky.